Imagine your spouse is sent to prison for a year.
A whole year.
Yeah, a full year. And simply for handing out glasses of juice on a hot day.
It sounds absurd, right?
Totally. But then, suddenly, your own family turns their backs on you out of fear. So who do you turn to when the people tied to you by blood treat you like a dangerous criminal?
It really forces a severe reevaluation of where true security actually comes from, especially when, the state machinery is actively working to isolate you.
Right. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Before we get started, for those of you joining our video feed on the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, please do us a massive favor. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button on this video, and drop your valuable comments below to support this detailed audio summary.
Yeah, please do. Your engagement really allows us to keep extracting the best insights from these incredible pieces of literature.
Exactly. We read every single comment. And your perspectives always add such a fascinating layer to these discussions.
Yeah.
So today, the mission of this deep dive is to explore the emotional core of a remarkably powerful short story by the legendary Indian author, Munshi Premchand.
Such a brilliant writer.
He really is. The story is called Anubhav, which translates to experience. And it's a standout piece from his renowned Manasarovar collection.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at a narrative that dissects the anatomy of courage, the contagious nature of societal fear, and these unexpected alliances that form during a highly volatile political era. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So to fully grasp the stakes of Anubhav, we really need to establish the historical framing Premchand is working within.
A British Raj?
Exactly. We are looking at India during the independence movement. It's a period defined by intense paranoia.
Because of the surveillance.
Yes. The colonial government utilized sprawling surveillance networks like the Criminal Investigation Department or CID to monitor the population. Everyday actions, even basic hospitality, could suddenly be categorized as acts of rebellion or sedition. And we're going to observe how the original source material portrays the psychological weight of this era, mapping out the viewpoints the author presents without endorsing any particular political faction.
Right. We're just looking at how Premchand captures the human element. And the inciting incident of this story captures that suffocating tension perfectly.
It really does.
The narrator's husband, who she refers to affectionately as Priytam, or beloved, is given a 1-year prison sentence.
And his crime is just...
It's wild. It was the sweltering month of Jeff's summer. And he simply served sherbet to a group of passing national volunteers. Freedom fighters.
Such strange.
Just a basic act of hospitality. And that bought him a year in a colonial jail.
What's fascinating here is how Premchand uses this very specific, seemingly mundane act to illustrate a massive shift in power dynamics.
How so?
Well, serving sherbet in that specific political climate wasn't just a matter of quenching someone's thirst. In the eyes of the British authorities, it was fraternizing with dissidents.
Providing aid and comfort to the enemy, basically.
Right, a movement threatening the empire. But to the narrator and to the people involved in the movement, it was an act of profound moral duty.
So there's a clash of values.
Exactly. Premchand is contrasting the strict, punitive legal power of the state with the quiet, unyielding moral power of the individual citizen.
And you see that contrast so vividly in the courtroom scene.
Oh, that scene is brilliant.
The narrator is standing there watching her husband. And the room is designed to be incredibly intimidating. You have the British officer sitting up high on his magistrate's chair.
Looming over everyone.
Looming, yeah. And you have the police officers standing guard in their striking red, zari-embroidered turbans. Plus, her husband is brought in wearing heavy handcuffs.
The whole architecture and the uniforms are all meant to make her feel small and defeated.
But she doesn't. Looking at those handcuffs, she doesn't feel despair at all. She feels an overwhelming sense of pride and self-respect. She views her husband as a hero, and that formidable court suddenly seems trivial to her.
That internal emotional pivot is really a cornerstone of the narrative. The physical space of the courtroom, which represents the immense weight of the British Empire, just shrinks in her mind. The author is showing us that true authority doesn't always wear a uniform or wield gavel.
Right.
Sometimes true authority is the quiet dignity of a person who knows they followed their conscience, regardless of the legal consequences. For the narrator, those heavy handcuffs are a badge of honor.
But I mean, doesn't that pride feel a bit naive, given the practical reality of a 1-year sentence?
Wow.
Like that silent victory in the courtroom is a beautiful literary moment. But Premchand doesn't let us linger there. He immediately forces us to confront the harsh, practical reality of her situation when she steps outside those doors.
Which is a necessary transition because moral victories in the courtroom rarely pay the bills or keep a roof over your head.
No, they don't.
The psychological high of defiance crashes hard into the logistical nightmare of survival.
Because she is now a woman alone, the wife of a convicted political prisoner. Naturally, you'd think she would turn to her family.
You would think so.
But she is completely abandoned by her own father and her father-in-law.
Both of them.
Both of them. Because these men hold comfortable government positions, and they are terrified. They know the CID is watching.
Searching everything.
Right. They believe that associating with her, their own flesh and blood, will cost them their jobs, their pensions, and their social standing.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Premchand is illustrating the concept of institutional fear and how deeply it infects the middle class.
But they do try to assuage their guilt in a rather cowardly way.
Oh, the secret money.
Yeah. They offer to send her money in secret, under the table. But they absolutely refuse to give her shelter in their homes. They want to buy off their conscience without taking any of the risk.
It is a transactional approach to family. They are basically trying to pay a fine to their own conscience.
And the narrator rejects it in a way that I found incredibly compelling.
Yes.
She physically tears their letters to pieces and throws them away. It's this powerful, tactile act of defiance.
Very visceral.
She essentially decides she would rather face the secret police camped right outside her door than accept fear-based charity. Because there are literally CID agents stationed right outside her house, watching her every move.
She is completely isolated.
Isolated, under constant surveillance, and her blood relatives have essentially disowned her.
By tearing up the letters, she's rejecting the conditional relationships they're offering. She's choosing principal isolation over comfortable complicity.
But that has to take a toll.
An immense psychological toll. Having the secret police camped outside your home in the 1930s meant absolute social death. Neighbors wouldn't look at you. Merchants might refuse to sell to you. You are branded.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the turning point of the narrative. Because when the people you were supposed to rely on fail you, help often comes from the most unexpected places.
Might be true.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Enter Gyan Babu and his wife, Deviji. Now, Gyan Babu is a local schoolmaster. Good man, educated, but a bit timid. Not your typical swashbuckling hero.
No.
But his wife, Deviji, is a masterclass in character writing.
She is arguably one of Premchand's most brilliantly constructed characters in the entire Manas Sarovar collection.
Let me paint a picture of Deviji based on the text. She is an imposing figure. She has a commanding, almost regal presence.
On the jewelry.
Heavily adorned with jewelry from head to toe. At first glance, the narrator admits that she looks intimidating, maybe even haughty. You wouldn't immediately look at her and think of a comforting savior. But beneath that glittering exterior beats a fiercely loyal heart.
That contrast is deliberate, and it serves a specific literary function. Premchand is actively subverting a common trope here.
How so?
In much of South Asian literature of the time, the heavily bejeweled, imposing matriarch is portrayed as the antagonist.
Ah, right. The harsh mother-in-law.
Exactly. Or the vain aristocrat who enforces oppressive social norms. But Deviji uses her imposing nature not to oppress, but to protect. Her strength isn't a weapon against the vulnerable. It is a shield for them.
And we see that immediately. Deviji and Gyan Babu show up at the narrator's house. Deviji completely ignores the secret police lurking outside.
Just walks right past them.
Orders her husband to go fetch a carriage and insists, without leaving any room for argument, that the narrator is coming to live with them. She rescues her right out from under the nose of the authorities.
It is a display of sheer audacity. While the narrator's fathers were cowering behind closed doors trying to protect their government pensions, Deviji, a woman with no formal political power or state authority, marches in and dismantles the isolation the state tried to impose.
It's amazing.
It really highlights how everyday, unheralded courage often forms the true backbone of any social or political movement. The formal protests get the historical attention, but the domestic defiance sustains the people involved.
And the beauty of Deviji isn't just in that grand rescue gesture. It's in how she acts once they are back at her house.
The hospitality.
Yeah. You might assume someone dripping in jewelry would be sitting back while servants fan her. But they have no servants for the inner house. Deviji tirelessly does all the household chores herself.
She does everything.
She treats the narrator like a beloved younger sister. Refuses to let the narrator lift a finger. Feeds her constantly. and shields her from every possible worry.
We are seeing a beautiful representation of radical hospitality. Deviji recognizes the trauma the narrator has endured, the betrayal of her family, the terror of the CID, the loss of her husband.
It's a lot to carry.
By taking on the physical labor of the house, Deviji is providing the narrator the emotional space to heal. The jewelry and the regal demeanor hide an immense, tireless empathy. She isn't just providing a roof. She has created a sanctuary.
So for a brief moment, the narrator can finally breathe.
Right.
But the overarching political tension hasn't vanished. The CID agents haven't given up. They figure out where the narrator went, and they start putting pressure on Gyan Babu's workplace.
This is the ultimate test of their arrangement. It is one thing to offer sanctuary in the heat of the moment when emotions are high. It is another entirely to maintain that sanctuary when the oppressive system actively threatens your own economic survival.
And the climax of the story hits when the school principal calls Gyan Babu into his office. The principal severely scolds him, makes it clear that by harboring the wife of a known political prisoner, Gyan Babu is bringing heat onto the school and jeopardizing his own position.
And Gyan Babu breaks.
He comes home terrified. His job is on the line. He's the picture of panic, telling his wife that they're about to be ruined.
Here we see the institutional fear that infected the narrator's fathers trying to infect Gyan Babu. The state is pulling the economic levers to force compliance.
It's a scary tactic.
Highly effective. Threatening a man's livelihood is often faster than threatening his life.
And the narrator hears all of this unfold. Her immediate reaction is exactly what you'd expect from someone who has already been treated like a burden by her own flesh and blood. She feels an immense wave of guilt.
Of course.
She packs her things and offers to leave right then and there, so she doesn't ruin the lives of the only people who are kind to her.
It is a heartbreaking reflex. The state's intimidation tactics have worked on her psyche to the point where she has internalized the idea that her very presence is a danger to those she loves.
But this is where Deviji steps in.
And delivers the moral thesis of the entire story.
Deviji's reaction is incredible. Instead of being scared, instead of taking the easy out that the narrator is offering, she gets furious.
But not at the narrator.
No, she scolds her own husband. She asks him why he didn't fight back against the principal. And when the narrator tries to leave, Deviji affectionately threatens her.
I love this part.
She says, "If you say another word about leaving, I will pull your ears." She declares unequivocally that they will live or die together.
This raises an important question. What gives Deviji this unshakable courage when men with far more societal power, like the fathers and the school principal, are crumbling?
Right. Why is she so fearless?
It comes down to her fundamental understanding of value and sacrifice. She delivers a speech that completely reframes the situation. She tells her husband that the freedom fighters are the nation's true soldiers. They are the ones sacrificing their own families, their own freedom for the country's future.
But I mean, isn't it easy for Deviji to say that when she isn't the one facing immediate imprisonment, she has the comfort of her home?
You might think so, but she is putting her own family's survival on the line in that very moment. Her conviction isn't just theoretical. She is risking her husband's livelihood to back it up.
That's true.
Deviji states that because these men are sacrificing everything, hosting the wife of such a man is not an act of charity. It is not doing the narrator a favor.
What is it then?
Rather, the narrator is doing them a favor by gracing their home. Deviji views it as an honor to serve someone who has suffered for the greater good.
Wow.
Premchand uses her character to argue that true patriotism and morality aren't confined to public protests. They're defined by how you support those who suffer for the cause in the quiet domestic spaces.
That reframing is brilliant. She completely takes away the narrator's guilt by turning her presence from a liability into a badge of honor for the household.
Exactly.
It neutralizes the principal's threat. Gyan Babu might lose his job, but Deviji makes it clear that losing their moral compass would be a far greater tragedy.
It is a profound rejection of the fear-based society the authorities are trying to enforce. The CID can take Gyan Babu's salary, but they cannot touch Deviji's soul or her fierce loyalty.
Oh.
She strips the state of its power by refusing to value economic safety over human dignity.
It really makes you pause and think about the quiet heroes in the background of any major historical event. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? This story presents us with such vastly different types of courage.
It does.
You have the husband's public political defiance, serving sherbet in the open, knowing the risks, and accepting the handcuffs with a smile. But then you have Deviji's quiet domestic bravery. She isn't out protesting in the streets, but she's holding the line in her own home, refusing to let fear dictate who she cares for.
Both forms of courage are absolutely necessary for societal change. The public defiance sparks the movement, but the domestic bravery sustains the people involved.
Without individuals like Deviji, those on the front lines would have no foundation to fall back on.
It redefines what we consider heroic action.
It really does. It makes you wonder, who is the Deviji in your own life? Who is that person who, despite having maybe an intimidating exterior, would go to bat for you when the chips are down and the rest of the world is walking away?
I think there's a final thought to ponder here that takes Premchand's themes out of the 1930s and places them squarely in our laps today.
Okay.
We talked a lot about the CID and state surveillance enforcing social isolation. Today, we don't necessarily need a colonial government parked outside our house to feel that same paralyzing fear.
That's an intriguing parallel. Where do you see that playing out?
Consider the modern mechanics of cancel culture, digital surveillance, and online mobs.
Oh.
The underlying psychological weapon is exactly the same as the one used by the Raj and Anubhav, the threat of sudden, total social and economic isolation.
That's chilling.
If the digital algorithm or the public consensus suddenly turned against you for a perceived infraction, how quickly would your own network, the people tied to you by employment or casual association, abandon you to protect their own digital standing?
Wow. Just like the fathers in the story.
Yeah. Exactly. Premchand entitled this story Anubhav, or Experience. Perhaps the ultimate experience is realizing that whether it's the 1930s secret police or a modern digital mob, institutional fear operates the exact same way.
Right.
The question remains, when the pressure is applied, will you act like the terrified fathers, or will you have the unshakable, irrational courage of Deviji?
That is a haunting and vital question to leave off on. The tools of isolation may evolve, but the human test of courage remains entirely unchanged. Munshi Premchand's insights are as sharp today as they were a century ago.
Truly timeless.
Well, that brings us to the end of our exploration of Anubhav. I want to remind everyone listening, if you appreciated this deep dive, please subscribe to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel. Hit the like button on this video, and we would love it if you shared your thoughts in the comments.
Let us know what you think of Deviji's fierce bravery, or tell us about the unexpected allies who have shown up in your own life.
We truly appreciate your engagement and the perspectives you bring to the channel. Thank you so much for spending your time with us, for learning with us, and for supporting this deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking out those great stories. Take care.